TIAA is on a mission. Why? Because 54% of Black Americans don't have enough savings to retire. So in collaboration with big-name artists like Wyclef Jean, TIAA released Paper Right, new music inspiring a new financial future. With 100% of streaming sales going to a nonprofit that teaches students how to invest. Stream Paper Right now and help close the gap.
At Maximum Mediocrity, people say things like,
I don't dress like this on the regular basis. This isn't my, pooping uniform. This is not what I wear.
And they also say things like,
The nurses are usually either angels of mercy or whores.
Every episode is a new experience where you get to know people that aren't famous but should be.
Why did my facing Floyd Mayweather in the woods?
My co-host Morgan and I track down the people you didn't know you needed to hear from.
It's like hot sex in a mug.
We are the Maximum Mediocrity Podcast, and we are on all major podcasting platforms. We'll be waiting for you.
You know, Matt, I know that this album hits its highs very, very, very soon. And I know I came down real hard on the Brady Bunch.
Oh, you were so negative about it.
I don't think that this is as bad as the Brady Bunch, but I like the idea behind Buy Me a Condo a lot more than I like the actual execution of Buy Me a Condo is where I'm at right now. I'm curious where you're at with Buy Me a Condo.
So I like this one a lot.
Okay.
I really do. I think this is one of the more interesting subject matters that he has ever done. First things first, it is vaguely problematic that he is singing in that accent.
Just a little bit. Also, side note, this song has the least amount of information on Wikipedia. Like, every song has like a paragraph about it. This one literally just says, Buy Me a Condo is a style parody of Bob Marley and reggae of the genre in general. That is the only thing that Wiki's given you on this one.
Right.
Which is kind of missing a little bit of the point, because I think that the song is... What the song is great at is that it is a beautiful juxtaposition of like everything that the Rastafarian lifestyle is supposed to represent, blend it with like the yuppie consumerism of the 80s. Like, it's a very smart song. I'm not that big of a reggae guy, so I kind of just wish I enjoyed listening to the song as much as I like the concept of what the song is.
Right. And it's also funny because I was going to say, and we'll get to this a little bit later, it's interesting because when I hear this song and I hear the way he sings it in that kind of Bob Marley accent, I cringe a little bit because it feels like it's like, oh God, is that like, some part of it is like, is this okay?
Yeah.
But then in a couple songs, when he does his Police parody, he's kind of singing it the exact same way.
Yeah,
it's really not that different.
Voice. Yeah,
Sting has been doing that voice forever. So I was like, all right, well, I guess this is fine. It's just an interesting juxtaposition. I mean, it's a strange thing. I've always thought that was a little odd about the Police too, for what it's worth. But
it can be a little problematic for sure. But it's also like, I don't know. I put it in the exact same category as like all of the white dudes in UB40 or like.
Sure, yeah, exactly. There was definitely a point in time, and this is what's interesting because that's really what this song is about.
White
which
reggae.
is well, reggae broke in America. I mean, it broke in more places than America, but this just comes at a time where Marley was huge, and there was this real like culture, like the reggae culture permeating American music culture in this new way, and the song is about the reverse of Americans appropriating that culture.
Yeah.
So, all of this, like, I really think, like, lyrically, this is a brilliant satire of this, like, American culture thing of, like, oh, man, in Jamaica, this Rasta culture is so pure and organic and more wholesome and more, like, down to earth, and they're more in touch with the world. Like, that's, like, the stereotype of it. And so to write the song from that guy's perspective of just wanting to have an American suburban life is really, really smart and interesting, and it's like, I don't know, it's very thoughtful for him.
I was not aware until you mentioned it, because you were like, oh, like Bob Marley broke in America, and like I was not aware until just now checking his wiki page that really, yeah, Bob Marley's success came after his death, basically. In the States. Let's start here. Because I do think that this is a song that there's some stuff to analyze, but it's definitely a song to tangent upon quite a bit.
Sure.
Where do you fall on both? And I feel like it has to be two separate categories: Bob Marley and reggae as a whole.
Reggae is something I came to appreciate a little bit later. That was I'm not sure if I've talked about this on this podcast very much, but for years when Wheatus wasn't on tour, I ran a record store in Brooklyn. That was like my sort of day job, and I would hand the reins over when the band was on the road, but when I was home, I was there all the time. And my appreciation for reggae music really came from that, where things came in, and the owner of the shop, who so much of my music knowledge that I have now comes from her. She's just brilliant. She knows everything about everything. And she got me into Marley never really resonated with me before, but then she was telling me I needed to check out, like Jimmy Cliff and Peter Tosh and Augustus Pablo and all of these like old school, like real, like true reggae artists of mostly the 70s. And I really got into it from there, and I came to appreciate. It's very, it's it's an overused term for me, but it's a vibe. You have to be in the right kind of mood for this sort of thing. But I came to really appreciate musically, it's this great exercise of like, it's simple, or it's deceptively complicated. It sounds simple. It sounds very laid back and like you're not doing anything. You have to be really good to play this type of stuff, which actually segues into Al's band on this song play it really well. This feels very legitimate. It feels genuine. Even Clapton did his version of like, he covered a bunch of
he
Marley
did like
songs.
I Shot the Sheriff.
Yeah. And even Clapton, when I hear his version of I Shot the Sheriff, that sounds like a bunch of old white guys playing that song.
Yeah.
Compared to the original.
Look, a controversial statement. I think that Clapton is one of the more overrated of the like guitar gods and all. Like,
I'm not a fan. I think we talked about this on Buckingham Blues, which is like anytime it's like a white guy playing the blues, I'm not really interested. It's just doesn't track for me.
Yeah.
But Al's band on this song play it really well. It's totally believable to me. So I guess back to your original point. Yeah, like I'm a reggae fan, and I grew to like Marley. Initially, I didn't get it, but now I can appreciate a lot of his stuff.
It's funny to me. So obviously, I was a ska kid, so every ska band had a couple reggae songs, and I always was fine with that. I haven't really dug as deep into the '70s reggae as I should. I would put Bob Marley Legend up there as one of the finest greatest hits compilations probably ever produced, but also because I feel like to a certain extent, and I think I've said this about Tom Petty when we did the Stop Dragging My Car Around, that like if the only album you owned by Tom Petty was his greatest hits album, while I definitely think that there are good non-singles in his discography, I wouldn't feel like that person was missing out on too much. I'm like, no, the hits are the hits for a reason. I feel the same way with Bob Marley. Like, if you have that Legend album, you really do have the 14 songs that are the most impactful in his like decade-long career. But it's funny to me that my first exposure to Bob Marley was three things almost simultaneously. The Simpsons using Jammin' in an episode when the cops got high. The Fugees releasing a music video of their cover of No Woman, No Cry.
Yes.
And when I was a kid, I didn't have cable, so I watched a lot of those like basic cable shows, and there was a bunch of commercials, and I forget what it was for, but they used Get Up, Stand Up as the song for this commercial. So like all three of those things were entering my life simultaneously. And then I had an aunt who loved taking a cruise to Jamaica, and she had that Bob Marley Legend album. So I just would listen, like, because of those three songs, I was like, I want to check out the rest of this, this album. And it's good. It's good stuff. I think Three Little Birds is a genuinely beautiful song. Redemption Song is a beautiful song. But yeah, reggae was never my thing. Talking about this song, though, it is kind of weird to hear Weird Al refer to ganja.
It is definitely more maybe his only weed reference in his
Ever,
entire
yeah.
catalog.
It caught me off guard. I forgot that he is put down the ganja, and I'm like, whoa,
Yeah.
ow.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it hits a lot of these I mean, he's hitting all of these markers of what people associate with the reggae movement, and even his jaw, which is maybe my favorite joke in the entire song is the jaw jacuzzi in my backyard.
Yes. Oh, it's so good.
That's really, really funny.
That is the best joke. And him doing the jaw part, let me see if I can find the name of the song real fast. But the jaw thing also reminds me of Ross Trent by Lonely Island.
Yes.
Their reggae parody as well. I think that this is one of the only times that I will say this, and I'm a big Lonely Island fan, but I think that Lonely Island did a better job of what this concept was, of a weird reggae song that completely misses what the ethos of reggae music is supposed to be. I think that Al's is funnier, but the Lonely Island kept theirs short. They kept theirs 90 seconds to 2 minutes, where it's okay, you get in, you get the joke, you get out. I don't know if I needed a full track of this.
Well, it's interesting because I would bet, there's no way Lonely Island must know this song.
Oh,
I feel like there has to have been a reference point.
I guarantee
it
was
hits
intentional.
too many of the same markers.
Yeah, because they definitely do the jaw lyric almost. I mean, they don't. The jaw to jacuzzi is absolutely brilliant. Even just the opening line of the Lonely Island one with jaw Rastafarianism. Yes, I Ross Trent.
Yes,
but a ding 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 whoa. It's it nails that white guy who just discovered reggae, and it's
sure.
An artist who I think is exceptionally talented, but I think Ross Trent is a perfect blending of Weird Al's "Buy Me a Condo" and everything about Matisyahu. I love Matisyahu, but even the other day I was listening to it, and I was like, should I be more concerned that a guy dressed as a rabbi is rapping in such a thick Jamaican accent?
These are valid questions. But again, I think what's interesting about Al's version is he's doing it, but it is everything about the song is drawing attention to it's a song about cultural appropriation, ultimately.
This is the definition of juxtaposition.
Yeah.
If you needed an example to explain to someone what juxtaposition is supposed to be, this is a great song to give them.
Hey, do you have an idea for a podcast but don't know where to start? Or do you have an already existing podcast that you want to take to the next level? Well, check out WeKnowPodcasting.com. From concept development to theme music to editing to logos, WeKnowPodcasting.com is a one-stop shop for all things pod. Don't hesitate to hit us up. We're very nice.
Also, just throwing this out there because he name drops him, and I don't think we'll ever have another time on this show to talk about. He just randomly name drops Jackson Brown in the middle of this, which I guess is because he kind of represents a little bit of that yuppie culture. But Jackson Brown was my aunt's absolute favorite musician. And when she died, she had every one of his albums on CD. So I took those CDs, and I got to tell you, Jackson Brown fucking rules, man.
In a random, it is funny. I guess it's just his jokey, gonna sell my Bob Marley records and get me some Jackson Brown is just the most basic white guy thing he could, and also fits the rhyme scheme. In a funny sort of random twist, very recently, just earlier this year, I actually met Jackson Brown.
Is he as nice as I hope he is?
He is.
Good.
I was backstage at a show. I was in LA doing a bunch of shows with Mike Doty, who I also work with a bunch. And Mike got invited to be a guest at a show at Largo with the Watkins Family Hour.
Okay.
It's like a bluegrass show, but they have a rotating, a group of guest musicians who play at each one. It's just surprise guests at each show. And Mike was one of them, and I went along with him. I wasn't actually playing. I was just kind of went there for support and to check out the show. And we're meeting everyone, and then all of a sudden, someone's like, "Oh, have you met Jackson?" And I'm just look up, and it's Jack. I was like, "Oh, no, hi. Yeah, it's like that bizarre moment. Like, I honestly don't even remember what I said to him really, but like we spoke for like a couple minutes, and he was very pleasant, very like eager to meet everybody, and he got up there and he did, I'm not even going to remember it, but like he was the guest. They introduced him. Of course, the crowd went nuts. He got up there and he did a song that I had never heard before. It was a deep cut. It was not a hit. It was beautiful, and he was like, "See ya."
Yeah, I was
like
gonna say if you're
deep cut and then left. I was like, "Wow, man! He like what a performer! He crushed."
Yeah. So if you're like, I don't know who Jackson Browne is, which is possible. I think it's
possible.
I feel like he's in that weird pocket where it's like you either know him or you don't. But you would definitely know Somebody's Baby. Was probably his biggest hit from like Fast Times at Ridgemont High. The other big hit that I think of from him is Dr. My Eyes, which is an awesome song.
Dr. My Eyes is one of the best songs ever.
Yeah.
That is a beautiful, beautiful song.
Dude, the harmonies on the chorus, that driving piano throughout it.
And it was for what it's worth, I was gonna say, like, in my mind, his biggest song is "Running on Empty."
Running on Empty,
which does get played a lot as well.
He actually wrote "Take It Easy" for the Eagles.
For the Eagles, yeah, that's right.
But then the one that actually shattered my heart, you know how sometimes there's a song that like. So when I was listening to all those CDs, while this song had nothing to do with my aunt, it was like something about listening to this specific song for the first time and thinking about how much this artist meant to her. And I like, in the back of my mind, I could see her listening to the song and being moved by it. I became moved by it. Is The Pretender.
The Pretender. That's
like,
also a great, great, great song.
Oh my God. The lyrics in that song are just like heartbreaking. It's a really beautiful song. But the song that made me love Jackson Browne, where it was more than just like, oh, I like Dr. My Eyes, I like Running on Empty, is on Running on Empty. I'm pretty sure it's on Running on Empty. Has a bunch of live tracks. And there's this closing track called The Loadout. That's like an ode to the groupies and like diehard fans that then bleeds into a cover of Stay.
Yeah.
And it is, I mean, it's 9 minutes, but it is worth every second of those 9 minutes to sit down and listen to that song. So if you don't like Buy Me a Condo, check out The Loadout / Stay by Jackson Browne.
Well, our title character in Buy Me a Condo has moved on to Jackson Browne. So if you feel like you can relate to that, this is the move. I was going to say another testament, the Running on Empty, that entire record is live.
Yes. Okay,
the single version, the version of that song that it gets played is the only one, is a live recording. It's incredible. It sounds so good.
He also has a very good, one of the, like I said, she had everything by him. There's, I think it was called Solo Acoustic Volume 1. And it was basically like his version of Behind the Music. It's like an hour acoustic live performance where he's like giving you these in-depth stories about the writing of like different big hits, and he is an artist that is truly worth diving into because the music is really fantastic. Yeah, Jackson Browne brings a lot of emotions up for me because that connection. It's weird. It's crazy how someone's favorite artist, when they're gone, very quickly can become one of your favorite artists because it's like that one connective tissue that keeps them here.
Absolutely, yeah.
This is
nice.
how little information I have to talk about by
No, I was going to say, well, maybe we've tapped into here, like, Al wrote this song making fun of Jackson Browne, so that's why you're not
just like, fuck you.
He's like, you know what, Al, it's not funny at all.
But yeah, I mean, I'm not sure if you have any other additional insights on Buy Me a Condo, or are we ready to rank this bad boy?
I guess so. I mean, I would just say again, I guess it'll come out in my rankings here, but I really do think that lyrically, this really strikes me as one of the smarter, more thoughtful songs that he has ever come up with. I don't know. I really, really, and maybe I'm more impressed because, like I said, like I feels like at this point in time, it should be more like frighteningly problematic than it is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think the sentiment behind the song is spot on, and
yeah, it's almost like it's almost that weird element of satire, right? Like part of satire sometimes is that you have to be problematic to drive home what you're making fun of.
Yeah. This is really like he's kind of pushing the envelope with this song in a way that still feels not inappropriate. I mean, we're not in this like reggae boom anymore like we were at the time where he wrote this, but I'm into it. I guess your mileage may vary based on your tolerance for a reggae groove, because it does run for a while. The hook comes back a few times, but I also feel like that's very indicative of the genre.
Yeah.
They kind of come up with a groove and just like sit in it for a long time and just let it go, you know?
You know, after we talked about this, I do think I'm going to bump this up a little bit higher than I originally intended.
Ooh, I've convinced you.
Yeah. Look, Checks in the Mail and Midnight Star, spoiler alert, are probably going to be hanging out there for until at least we get to the next album. But I am going to put this kind of near the middle. I don't like it as much as Happy Birthday. I think Happy Birthday is just pure chaotic energy. But I do think that I like it more than Such a Groovy Guy. So I'm putting it there. So just to recap for the people listening, for the original songs, I go Checks in the Mail, Midnight Star, Mr. Frump, I'll Be Mellow When I'm Dead, Happy Birthday, Buy Me a Condo, Such a Groovy Guy, Buckingham, Got a Boogie.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go higher than you. You know what? I'm going with my instinct on this, and this is probably going to be a controversial choice. I am putting this above Mr. Frump.
Okay. So right underneath Midnight Star, but...
Right underneath Midnight Star.
All right. Wow.
I do love Frump. I do love Frump. And Frump is also...
Frump is what it is.
Frump is what it is, and Frump is very clever as well. I'm a sucker for like a clever premise. And I think that's... I'm a sucker for this one. What can I say?
Yeah.
There it goes.
All right. Well, we got a big one next week, and we got a guest next week. So
guests.
So strap in for next week's episode.
Yes.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.